team. Cowboys. And who I'm rolling with, huh?
Another episode of Classic Dallas Cowboys Talk. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. Jesus Christ died and he rose again. It's gonna have to get into it, okay? So, a few headlines, okay? The number one Cowboys fan out of all the millions and millions of Cowboys fans, Miss Carolyn Price passed away last week from cancer, okay? She was a number one Dallas Cowboys fan. We were Facebook friends, right? Yeah. And so, but she was clearly, without a doubt, the number one Cowboys fan. People were paying their respects. People were paying their respects. DeMarvin Overshone paid his respects. I saw where the Cowboys organization put out a statement. And the number one fan, Miss Carolyn Price, has passed away, and I know she's gonna be cheering from heaven now. Okay, yeah. So rest in peace to the number one Cowboys fan, Miss Carolyn Price. Okay. Also, this George Pickens thing. It's George Pickens deal. Okay. I've been seeing things trade George Pickens to the Raiders for Max Crosby, okay? Trade George Pickens to the Raiders for Max Crosby. Do you know how silly that sounds? Do you know how absurd that sounds, okay? George Pickens is not going anywhere, okay? George Pickens is not going anywhere. All right? And so, this absurd notion that we should trade George Pickens for Max Crosby. Okay. Did you see what we had opposite CeeDee Lamb for a few years there? Okay. I think Cowboy fans who don't use their heads are forgetting what we had at number 2 before George Pickens. Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, okay? Guys like that, okay? So you would really want to take away George Pickens and just have everybody gravitate towards CD, okay? That's what you really want, okay? Is that what y'all really want? Do y'all really want to do that? It reminds me of a situation back in around 1989 or 90, where David Shula was in Jimmy Johnson's ear to cut Michael Irvin, okay? And David Shula, he was one of the lamest offensive coordinators we've ever had. He was Aikman's first offensive coordinator, 1989 to 90, okay? Dave Shula was not good, okay? Rob Awalt once said, "It's bad enough when your team stinks, but when your offensive coordinator can't get out of his own way, it's brutal." Okay, and so Dave Shula was in Jimmy Johnson's ear about cutting Michael Irvin or trading Michael Irvin, and there was some talk that he was headed to the Raiders. Okay, and then Al Davis asked Jimmy Johnson and said, "Are you sure you want to do that? Who's going to catch passes for you?" And the Cowboys didn't do it. Best move they did not make. Okay. So the question with George Pickens is, do y'all really want to do that? Okay. Do you really want to get rid of George Pickens? Anyway, the Cowboys had a 21-point comeback against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the first topic I'm about to get into involves Philadelphia Eagles, but when the Cowboys had a 21-point comeback, y'all know Scooter McGruder. He is comic relief in wins and losses. Okay, so not only does he do a video recap of the Cowboys fans when we win or lose, he also does an NFC East meeting. Okay, and so when the Cowboys came back from 21 points down, I myself could not wait for the NFC East meeting, and this is what had happened.
Welcome to the NFC East meeting, week 12. Can you stand up real quick? Why am I standing up? Now sit all the way down. I wasn't even that funny. Congrats on winning your Super Bowl. All that trash y'all were talking? Just to get humbled in the second half. Oh no, we lost. Now we're all the way back in first place in the division still. Nah, Mo, you were 21 points up at half and then you let the Cowboys come back? Take some accountability for sucking. This is on Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo. I don't know. The players weren't responding in the second half either. Just like your team in overtime versus the Lions. I'm glad we lost. Why mess up our draft position? You should be asking the Cowboys the same question. The biggest comeback in Cowboys history. 24 unanswered points. It's one game. It's not the end of the world. Oh, all of a sudden, it's just one game now. So why were you texting me at halftime then? You guys text during the games? I'm just glad we didn't lose this week.
The funniest part of that video of that NFC East meeting. Can you say it for a second? Now sit all the way down. That's why I said Scooter McGruder. Scooter McGruder is the absolute best, man. Scooter is the absolute best, okay? The absolute best, okay? Alright, so the Cowboys entered the 1992 playoffs, okay? They had a bye. And they were going to play the Philadelphia Eagles in their first playoff game in 1992. And they had just came off beating the New Orleans Saints. The Eagles did, okay? And so the Eagles still had a pretty formidable team, pretty formidable defense. Of course, you had guys like Reggie White, Seth Joyner, Clyde Simmons, Eric Allen. Then on offense, they had Randall and, ironically, Herschel Walker, okay? So, there was some trash talk coming from the Philadelphia Eagles the week leading up to their playoff clash, okay? So the Philadelphia Eagles had a safety by the name of Andre Waters that all of my old head Cowboy fans will remember, okay? They had a guy by the name of Andre Waters, okay? His nickname was Dirty Waters, okay? And he put Emmitt Smith on his list, okay? Says right here, place Emmitt Smith atop of his I will hit you late and below the knees list. And he said to the media, he said this. He said, two of us are going to walk onto the field, but only one of us is going to walk off. That was Andre Waters' message to Emmitt Smith, okay? So, in past couple of years, the Cowboys wouldn't be like, but since Jimmy Johnson took over, there was a new swagger, a new attitude about it, okay? About the Cowboys, okay? So instead of like, oh, crap, the Cowboys went, all right. That's the way he's going to be? All right, we'll see. Okay. So instead of shuddering, the Cowboys clipped the safety's words and added them to a locker room bulletin board layered with articles about the Eagles. Okay, so instead of getting anxious, the Cowboys were like, all right, we'll see. We'll see. So, so, when Tom Landry was coach, whenever the visiting team would run onto the field, it would be like a gentlemanly, welcome. Okay, the away team was not booed or whatnot. It says when visiting teams came into Texas Stadium, it was more like a gentlemanly reputation or reception when visiting teams jogged onto the field at Texas Stadium. But when the Eagles came into Texas Stadium in 1992 for his game, fans heckled Waters. They insulted his mother, his father, his ugly face, and his upright style of running. They screamed and yelled and shouted and hollered and relished one of the biggest routes in either of the team's playoff history. Right? Okay. So the Cowboys ended up winning 34-10, right? And so Ken Norton had his to say after the game. Ken Norton said there was a lot of talking before this game. We did our talking on the field. I don't think they have too much that they can say. I don't think they have too much that they can say right now. The greatest joy for Dallas came in mocking Waters, who spent the afternoon flailing at opposing receivers and missing tackles. During a stop and play, Waters jogged up to Smith and whispered, "I'm going to break your leg." Emmitt Smith smiled and laughed and said, "Whatever." He said, "Whatever." So after the game, of course, the media is going to go to the one who has probably one of the most outrageous quotes. After the game, the eager throng gathered around the safety's locker, anxious for an assessment. For one of the few times in his 30 years, Waters had nothing to say. Yeah. So, okay. Okay.
Raiders found their.
Hold up. Okay, so there are some Cowboys who left in free agency who did well. DeMarcus Lawrence just won a Super Bowl. By the way, I looked in the comments, and there are some people who are not happy, who could not care less that DeMarcus Lawrence won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. Okay. I believe somebody comments put F DeMarcus Lawrence. Yeah. So there are some Cowboy fans who don't like DeMarcus Lawrence, okay, for winning a Super Bowl. Now lest we forget, DeMarcus Ware also won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, but I don't think DeMarcus. Did I say DeMarcus Lawrence or DeMarcus Ware? DeMarcus Ware won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, but I don't think DeMarcus Lawrence said anything disparaging about Dallas when he left in free agency. He got released because he wouldn't take a pay cut. So I don't think DeMarcus Ware said anything disparaging about Dallas on his way out the door. I think that's why. I think that's why Cowboy fans were like genuinely happy for DeMarcus Ware. He didn't say anything about disparaging about Dallas. He had nothing but great attitude for his time with the Cowboys. Went into the Hall of Fame as a member of the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. I think the fact that DeMarcus Lawrence said, I would never win a Super Bowl in Dallas. That's what got Cowboy fans riled up. Okay. That's what got Cowboy fans riled up. Okay. Yeah. And yeah. Anyway. So, a short while ago, I showed you how Alvin Harper did post Dallas Cowboys. Okay. And didn't do nothing. Didn't do much of nothing when he left. And so Larry Brown, Super Bowl 30 MVP Larry Brown, picked off Neil O'Donnell twice, okay? And he was a free agent, and he got signed by the Raiders for the 1996 season, okay? Signed a lavish contract with the Raiders for the 96 season, okay? And didn't turn out too well. Didn't turn out too well.
Number 3 worst free agent signing of all time. The Raiders Super Bowl MVPs.
I shook my head. I could not believe that.
Here's a pass in the flat. Picked up by the Cowboys. Larry Brown may score.
Larry Brown was never a great cornerback.
This guy is lightning.
Only special teams player ever to win Super Bowl MVP, and he was absolutely useless.
The Vince Lombardi Trophy is coming home.
You got the feeling that Al Davis sat there watching the Super Bowl going, I wish I had that guy.
Our number 3 worst free agent signing of all time is the tale of 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
Touchdown for Desmond Howard.
And the great expectations of an NFL renegade.
The great thing about Larry Brown in that Super Bowl was all he had to do was show up with his hands attached to the end of his arms because the ball was thrown directly to him by Neil O'Donnell on those 2 throws. He ends up with 2 picks.
And the shame of it is O'Donnell threw it right to him. There was no receiver out there. Here's a pass in the flat. Picked up by the Cowboys. Woohoo!
All he had to do was put his hands out.
You get one more, you can run for mayor. Straight up. I'll vote for you, dog. Tell him you give me a job.
It was a freebie, it was a gift, and gladly appreciate it.
The Raiders rewarded the MVP of Super Bowl 30 with a lavish $12.5 million contract.
That's how you play, Larry. That's how you play, baby. With confidence.
How can the Raiders spend this kind of money on Larry Brown?
He was a very average player. He certainly wasn't a guy that you were going to plug into your defense, and your defense was going to get better.
Touchdown, San Diego.
Didn't really work out very well at all. He just didn't have those coverage skills because he went to the worst possible team for him. Went to a man-to-man coverage team. And that wasn't really his game. He's more of his own guy.
Brown started 1 game for Oakland and was released after 2 seasons.
I can't believe I am witnessing this.
It was embarrassing.
They give him all this money, can't play, doesn't work, goes out to the black hole, falls right into the black hole, and gets consumed to the vacuum of nothingness.
The Raiders found their neck.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it worked out for Larry Brown in Oakland. But did you also notice who also was in Oakland? I don't know if y'all caught it, but that was Russell Maryland who was holding him back in one of those shots. Okay. Yeah, so Russell Maryland went to the Raiders too. Yeah, but there were stories of him being benched, stories of him getting suspended. Yeah, he went to the black hole and didn't work out too well. I think it's unfortunate that it didn't work out for him. Because you heard what Charles Davis said. He was more of his own guy. Okay. And he did come back to Dallas to finish his career. Okay. He did come back to Dallas, but instead of wearing number 24, he wore number 43 for the Cowboys. Okay. So, just unfortunate it didn't work out for Larry Brown, but he got a nice payday. Real nice payday. All right, that's it. And that's all for Classic Cowboys Talk. I am out of here. Peace out. May God bless you all. By the way, I also saw that Nate Newton was also pardoned by President Trump. And a lot of Cowboy fans have turned on him. According to what I've seen on social media. A lot of Cowboy fans have turned on him. I don't think Nate Newton particularly cares what anybody thinks. He did thank President Trump in a post thanking him for pardoning Nate Newton. Okay. But a lot of Cowboy fans are turning on Nate Newton. Well, some fans may turn on me because I like Donald Trump, and I really don't even pay attention to politics all that much. So yeah, that's a forgotten headline that I forgot to insert in there. So yeah.
Who?
Cowboy.
What's my blue and gray team?
Cowboy.
And who I'm rolling with, huh?
My Cowboy.
Steelers better get it right. Giants better get it right. Who?
Cowboy.
What's my blue and gray team?
Cowboy.
And who I'm rolling with, huh?
My Cowboy.
Eagles better get it right. Skins better get it right.